Now, one of the family stories that really affected me when I was a child was that of Margaret. She was a little girl who came from London, had clearly led quite a tough life there, and came to live on her own with my grandparents and my mother as an evacuee during the Second World War. She was amazed by my grandmother's cooking and the comfort of having her own room, and she didn't want to go back, but she did, and we then never heard from her again. Well, that was not the case for Margaret and Kathleen Wright. They're twins, and they were 7 when they left their parents in Southend to live with Joyce Johnson and her father in Derbyshire. Margaret and Kathleen are now 81, and Joyce is 95, but they're still in touch after all these years. Bob Walker went to one of their reunions at Joyce's house.
Joyce, nice to be coming. Well, what a surprise. You knew which was which.
Yes. We're twins, as you probably know. Our mother was obviously very distressed about us going away. And she said, you are to hold hands, never be separated. You're to hold hands. It doesn't matter whatever happens. You're to always hold hands and not be separated. So that's where we were. Well, we were always together the whole of the time, absolutely, weren't we?
Mm-hmm. Our evacuation wasn't anything to do with bombs. Most evacuations were. But ours was to do with the fact that we'd got Southend Pier, the longest pier in the world, and the newest, on the Thames. And the point was that people feared an invasion of the Germans up the Thames to Southend Pier, landing place, everything perfect.
Deutschland hat nicht die Absicht, seine Doktrin zu exportieren. Im Augenblick, in dem Sowjetrussland seine Doktrin...
Can you remember leaving? For 2 7-year-olds, that must have been either an adventure or very frightening.
Well, I think it was put to us that it was an adventure, but I think we were not quite convinced. I think that puts it reasonably. But you see, we heard so much about this, we were ready for it.
What were your thoughts? Were you worried about as you got on that train to leave home as a 7-year-old?
See, I think we were, but you see, we had this business of you're to hold hands and never be parted. Yes. Absolutely in us. So that gave a bit of confidence. And also, you know, nobody cried. There were no children crying on that coach or in the train, so we didn't.
And of course, there were 2 of us, which, you know, made a difference. There must have been quite a lot of them who were feeling really, completely, utterly lost and bewildered. Yeah, that's the word.
But there must have been tears from parents.
I'm sure there were. Yes, and I remember either Mother or Dad or both saying what a terrible, desperate thing it was. They all drove away from the Southend station, and they drove away just feeling absolutely, utterly lost and betrayed, and saying to themselves, well, the children will at least be safe. And you know, I said, thank God for that.
And where were you taken to when you got to Smalley? Where were you taken to?
We went to the schoolroom and we all sort of circulated, and nice ladies from the village came and looked around and so on, and sort of said things like, oh, we'll take that one, or don't want that one.
We were told, as I said, we had to hold hands and never be separated. And a lot of the people, village people who came up to get a evacuee, their husbands had said, we're only having one boy, or we'll have a girl, or whatever. And it didn't include 2 girls holding hands and refusing to move. And then everybody was gone, and we were still way there. And Joyce, she just said, I'll take them. I can remember walking down the hill, and she said, I don't know what my father's going to say.
Father and I decided that we would take an evacuee because we'd been previously asked if everybody in the village or who could, if it got room. And we said, well, we thought we'd got room for one, you see, and I went there. And the others I must have been late, and everybody had gone but these 2 little girls. And so it was either bring 2 little girls or come home without, and I didn't want to come home without an evacuee.
The ironic thing, of course, is that you'd come from Southend, but yet you've come to a semi-rural industrial area
We had air raids when we were here.
It was like out of the frying pan into the fire because there's more chance of something.
Well, that is yes. I mean, that's what I've always thought about the standing outside here watching bombs drop at just a few miles away, and we'd been brought all this way for safety. Yes.
Well, Joyce has now led us out of the front room to show us a tiny cupboard under the stairs.
We brought a mattress down here and just sat there and lay in the middle of they were on the floor and I was in the corner telling them nursery rhymes and all sorts of things like that, as far as I can remember.
Can I just walk in here?
Well, if I stand up in it and it's almost touching either side of me.
We were on the floor. We just sat there. I don't know how we made it, but it's true.
So you'd sit in this cupboard, or you'd lie in this cupboard. What would you hear coming over?
All the planes going over to Manchester, Sheffield, all the big cities, Liverpool especially.
Frightened?
Well, yes, of course we were. I used to tell you nursery rhymes, didn't I?
Well, yes, I think you did, yes.
But you were busy going outside and telling your father off because he'd gone out without his tin hat on.
My recollection is of a droning noise of aircraft and absolute screaming noise of the siren.
For many evacuees and their parents, it was a difficult time of separation and loneliness, but not for the twins.
We were in the country, we were in a pretty little garden. We had a nice old-fashioned cottage and it was, really most attractive. It was just different.
We were so nicely treated here that we felt loved, I think, and therefore we were happy and safe.
Joyce still means a lot to you?
Oh, gosh, yes. Oh, yes. She's part of our background, part of our lives. I mean, in some ways it would be a pity. It was a pity that it happened that way. I mean, it was a pity that there was a war and children were separated and so on and so forth. But talk about, something good coming out of a difficult, if not dangerous situation is really amazing and a good lifetime friendship.
They were saying some very nice things about you.
It was most embarrassing. Just took it in my stride and you just did things like that in those days. It was probably my nature. I looked after my father and then the two little girls looked after them. I wasn't half as nice as they say I am, really. I was most embarrassed, most emotional. I wanted to cry.
You feel emotional after all this time?
Yeah, because they're making so much of how good I wasn't. I never thought we didn't think of things like that. And my friends all accepted them. They were part of the big family.
It gave something to them, it seems to me, that they actually got something out of being evacuated.
Yeah, I did as well.
What did you get?
Well, friendship from them, and they're just part of the family, aren't they?